They live is partially a political statement, it's partially a tract on the world that we live in today. And as a matter of fact, right now, it's even more true than it was then. We are manipulated by a lot of media around us. We are consumed by consumerism. And as you can see in the recent events in this country, they are still among us. They do live.
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices. Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
The truth hurts because the truth is all there is. The truth hurts because the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth, 'cause the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth, 'cause the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth, 'cause the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth, 'cause the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth, because the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth, 'cause the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth, because the truth is all there is. You can't hide from the truth. You can't hide.
Welcome to the show that explores the social dynamics and psychological forces that shape our world, much like the pecking order of a chicken coop. Why is society structured in rigid hierarchies? Why do we instinctively follow authority? And how is our belief in this structure manipulated to control us? We'll explore the layers of social conditioning, the psychology behind obedience, the hidden mind control techniques that influence our lives, and the universal moral laws that stand in stark contrast to manufactured authority. This is the Coop Files. Hello everyone. Today's date is Thursday the 26th of June 2025. And as usual, I'll start with the traditional housekeeping. Who is this show for me? Who is this show for? It's for me. It's so I can look my daughter in the eyes, in the face, and say that I didn't sit around with me thumb up my arse doing nothing while all of our freedoms and liberties and everything else is slowly taken away or quickly taken away, as the case may be, while society is in moral decay and nobody cares, where the UK government are happily going to kill people who are classed as terminally ill. People are clapping for this. People don't seem to realise that it's going to end up being disabled people next, children included. Then it'll be people with debilitating diseases, and then it'll be people with mental illness. And by mental illness, I don't mean mentally disabled, I mean mental illness, like depression, anxiety. And people are clapping for this because they're so retarded. I'm not going to go on too much about that. Moral decay, the global communism, the Great Reset, whatever you want to call it. This show is for me. So I can say to my daughter, when she asks the question, or when my grandchildren ask the question, what did you do, Grandad, during the Great Reset? It means I don't have to say nothing. I just sat and watched Newcastle United win a piece of silverware. So the show is for me. I don't really care if anybody listens. I do care, but I don't. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing it for. Who's the show not for? The statists, the people who actually believe in the state and government, that these sick sociopaths, criminal cartel who control you through coercion and violence, the statists, the people who are so retarded, they think that they are there for your safety and for your benefit. The conformists, the people who will just go along to get along, meek people who can see that that's a mushroom there, but they're too shit scared to say it because nobody else will. If somebody says, you know, that's a hedgehog, they'll say it's a hedgehog. The conformists, the authoritarians, the people who love rules and hate freedom, bitter, resentful people who are never made anything of their lives, so self-loathing, the atheist left-brainers, the people who have no empathy, close-minded, ultra-skeptics, the emotionally and spiritually immature. Like children, like little babies, haven't matured, don't understand their emotions, have no spirituality, just cry when you tell them the truth, when you tell them something which hurts their feeling, they cry like a little baby, the thin-skinned. I won't believe it. I'm not believing it because I'm such a stick man. I'm so fragile. I can't handle something that goes against me beliefs. Those who oppose the truth, who enjoy their comfort, they don't want to hear anything which makes them feel uncomfortable. No, I'm just going to reject that because, I'm quite comfortable here on the sofa watching grown men kick a bit of leather around a field, and that's where my tribal instinct and that's where my energy is going to go. Thank you very much. The self-loathing, the people who hate themselves so much they don't even want to know what's going on. They want to be slaves. So this presentation today I've called Religion versus Materialism, and then the true 7 deadly sins. And materialism obviously is the love of things like money, power, material goods, excess, status, and all that sort of stuff. And I've chose the word religion, and I'm going to use Christianity as the basis for the kind of opposite to materialism. But this could be any religion whatsoever versus materialism. It's really just I'm using the archetype of Christianity as the template for what you might just call anti-materialism, or living a bit more frugal, a bit more of a frugal lifestyle. So please don't get caught up on the word religion per se or Christianity. It's just what I'm using as an example to look at these two different opposing lifestyles. Materialism represented there by the Church of Satan on the left, and religion represented by Christianity there on the right. And materialism is the red element, and religion is the blue, and that's not a coincidence. It's always red against blue, and you'll see why as the presentation goes on. So what does Christianity say about how one should live their life? So we'll start with the 7 deadly sins. These are considered among the most paramount vices under Christian teachings. So let's go through them. Pride, an excessive love for oneself, the desire to excel everyone else. Greed, an intense desire and passionate love for material wealth. Wrath, uncontrolled feelings of anger, rage, or hatred. Lust, desire for wealth, fame, or power. Envy, lust is desire for anything really. Envy, the desire for possessions, happiness, as well as the talents and abilities of others. So you want what they've got. Gluttony, overconsumption of food or anything to the point of waste. Sloth, laziness, as is manifested by the willful avoidance of work or doing anything really, stemming from the desire to avoid responsibility. So on the surface of it, these are not exactly good traits to have as a human. But are they really sins? So a sin is from Old English. It means a violation of divine law, offense against God. Obviously, that's the religious aspect of it there, or a moral wrongdoing. So a moral wrongdoing, as we've covered in previous episodes, morals are objective. We've demonstrated that. So where do they come from? Where do morals come from? Who put them here? So to call it a divine law, I'm more than comfortable with that. Natural law. Obviously God can be a trigger word to a lot of people. But as far as moral wrongdoing is concerned, I'm more than happy to see sin as a moral wrongdoing. So let's take another look. Pride, an excessive love for oneself, the desire to excel everyone else. I mean, a moral wrongdoing, for it to be a moral wrongdoing, you have to initiate harm on somebody else. For it to be a wrongdoing, you have the right to have pride, even if it's in excess. You have the right to have a desire to excel above everybody else. That's fine. I'm not saying that it's a quality, an admirable quality, but it's not a moral wrongdoing. Greed, an intense desire and passionate love for material wealth. Well, again, it's just an intense desire. And if you love material wealth, you love material wealth. How are you initiating harm? By having an intense desire for material wealth. I'm not convinced that that's a moral wrongdoing. Wrath, uncontrolled feelings of anger, rage, or hatred. Feelings, there's nothing immoral about having uncontrolled feelings. Yes, you might want to work at regulating your feelings and bringing them under control. But as long as you don't act upon that anger and rage and initiate physical harm to somebody else, then that's not a moral wrongdoing. Lust, the desire for wealth, fame, or power. Again, desire for wealth, fame, or power. If you've got a desire for fame or power, again, it's an internal thing. It's an internal feeling or a desire. How you go about obtaining fame or power, whatever that may be, is a different story. The actual desire or the lust is not a moral wrongdoing. Envy, the desire for possessions, happiness, and the talents and abilities of others. Envy, I know lots and lots of envious people. Huge number of people have this vice, envy, but again, it depends. It's how you act in the world which is considered right or wrong. Being envious is not immoral. Gluttony, overconsumption of food or anything to the point of waste. Again, that's just how you are treating yourself. As long as, obviously, there's nothing good about waste, but overconsumption of food and just being greedy and wasteful is not a moral wrongdoing. Sloth, laziness as is manifested by the willful avoidance of work stemming from the desire to avoid responsibility. Again, it's a pathetic trait, laziness, and people who avoid responsibility are like children. But again, if you want to sit around on your couch doing nothing all day, I'm not entirely sure how that's harming me. So again, I'm not convinced that that's a moral wrongdoing. So this is how Christianity says you should live your life. These are the most high sins. Are they really sins? No, they are just vices, a defect, a blemish, or an imperfection. Again, this is not, these are vices that you really don't want to be displaying. And nobody's perfect. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say I'm perfect now and I've got no vices. But again, that doesn't make you immoral to have vices within reason. So the 7 heavenly virtues, let's have a look at that. Chastity, the quality of being morally pure. So this is how Christianity says that you should be morally pure. That sounds like perfection. I'm not sure that's achievable. Temperance, or self-restrained, submissive. Well, there's always a time for self-restraint, but there is also a time to absolutely act. Charity, which in this context is selflessness, martyrdom, put yourself second, diligence, hard work, perseverance, and steadfastness. I'm going to call that stubbornness. To appear hard working and constantly persevere regardless, absolutely regardless, and steadfastness. It sounds to me like stubborn, being stubborn. Patience, remain steadfast in difficult situations, trust in God's timing. So steadfast in difficult situations, again, it's just being, absolutely patient and to the point where, even if it's a difficult situation, to the point where not intervening with whatever is going on in this difficult situation, just remain calm, keep your mouth shut, just trust in God, trust in the timing. You'll get your chance eventually, i.e. don't have any assertiveness at all. Be passive. Kindness. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. So this is kindness. This is like the sort of nonsense that comes out of the snowflakes these days, the lefty pancakes, I was gonna call them. That just came out, pancakes. These lefty pancakes. That this word that they throw about, be kind. Basically what it means is be a walkover in this context. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgive you. So this was the ultimate martyrdom, the ultimate sacrifice. Just forgive. It doesn't matter what anybody does. Just forgive. Be a walkover. Be an absolute walkover. And don't stand up for yourself. Be a pancake. Humility, a modest and unassuming attitude, a willingness to serve others, like a slave, and a recognition of one's own limitations. Yeah, we should all be modest to a degree, but we've got to have some sort of confidence, self-esteem, and we've got to, yes, we should have a willingness to help others, but we need recognition. We need to recognize our own importance, and that we are equal in the eyes of God, if that's the word that you want to use in terms of the creator, the creator of the universe. We are all equal. None of us are here to purely serve others, and we should also have humility and self-respect and a recognition of one's own limitations. Yes, obviously, but you've got to push yourself, and sometimes you've got to say to yourself, I've got confidence, I can trust myself, I know that I can achieve this, I know I can push myself beyond my limitations and be successful. So this is a very clear picture to me around how this religious religious cult wants you to live your life to be perfect, submissive, be a martyr, hard work above everything else, be stubborn, just be patient, everything will work out in the end, don't be assertive, be kind at all costs, forgive anybody for anything, even if they do it multiple times, doesn't matter, keep going back for more, because you're a slave, and serve others, and remember that you're just a little person with limitations. So what does the Church of Satan say? Satan is viewed as a positive archetype, embracing the Hebrew root of the word Satan as adversary, aka the devil's advocate. That's where the word devil's advocate ultimately comes from, adversary. So the adversary represents pride, which, remember, is an excessive love for oneself and the desire to excel everybody else. So this is what the adversary is, the devil's advocate. Have pride, excessive. That's what it's all about. Conveniently in the month of June. We'll cover that in a later show. Pride. Carnality, which is fleshy lust or the indulgence of lust. Preoccupation with sexual desire, a focus on sensuality and material desires rather than spiritual pursuits. So this is love yourself and love flesh or the material world, desires, material desires, indulgence of all sorts. In other words, materialism. That's what the Church of Satan represents. Love yourself, love the material world, lust after everything associated with it, want sex, have no spiritual pursuits whatsoever. That's not what you're here for. You're here for the 5 senses. So you can see how it's completely opposed to everything Christianity is about. Hence, the word Satan comes from adversary, the opposer. Another thing that Satan represents is enlightenment. Now remember, it's important to note that the Church of Satan are atheists. They are hardcore atheists. They don't believe in any deity. They do not believe Satan is a deity. They do not believe Satan exists, that there's any character or any force per se, as in spiritual force, which represents Satan. It's just the material world. It just means the opposite to Christianity, the inversion of Christianity. They call it the Church of Satan to mock Christianity. If you even just take a few moments to browse the official website, you'll see they love to mock Christianity, which is fine, as in organized religion. Mock it all you want, but it's not, they don't worship a deity. So Satan represents enlightenment, which is knowledge gained through rationalism and empiricism. Rationalism emphasizes reason as the primary source of knowledge and truth. According to this view, human beings can attain knowledge through logical reasoning and intellectual deduction rather than solely relying on sensory experience or empirical evidence. Science, mathematics, ethics, and politics. So straight away there you can see the use of the word logical and intellectual. These are both elements of the left hand side, the left hemisphere of the brain. Logic and intellect. We'll come to that soon. Empiricism is a view which holds that true knowledge or justification comes only or primarily from sensory experience and empirical evidence, as I mentioned, science, maths, ethics, and politics. So sensory experience, the 5 senses. This is the material world. This is scientism, maths, politics, all elements of the left hemisphere of the brain. That's what materialism is. That's how they form their worldview. And I'm pretty sure that if you avoided using the word the Church of Satan, and if you tone down some of the language when it comes to fleshy lust, I'm pretty sure if you give somebody this worldview or this mindset, you presented it to them without them knowing it was related to the Church of Satan, I'm pretty sure most people will say, yeah, that sounds like me. The Church says that these are humanity's natural instincts which Abrahamic faiths have wrongly suppressed. According to High Priest Peter Gilmore, Satan is a name for the reservoir of power inside each human to be tapped at will. In LaVey's book, LaVey being the founder of the Church, the Satanic Bible, the Satanist's concept of a God is described as the Satanist's true self. The true self is God. A projection of his or her own personality. Or in other words, I am God, I am selfish, and I can do whatever I want. Who cares how it affects others, including my friends and family? This is pure selfishness where God is within. Arrogance, I'm God, I can do whatever I want, I make the rules. Whereas Christianity is the complete opposite to that, where you are a nobody and you are completely subservient to whatever the organized religion tells you that God says you should do. You are completely secondary. Whereas in Satanism, you are primary. They are complete opposite ends of the spectrum, extreme ends of the spectrum. So Satanism is basically man playing God. The atheists, they don't believe that there's any higher intelligence than man. And everything, all laws, all systems, all orders should be dictated to by man, because we are the divine authority of this realm. That's Satanism for you. Now you can see how the components of Satanism, and I've only covered it briefly there, they break down into 4 simple tenets. Covered this in previous episodes. So if you just boil down the components of Satanism, you can simplify the four tenets as self-preservation, me first, me first, me first, at above all else, regardless of the impacts on anybody else. I'm God. Self-preservation, moral relativism, because obviously if you don't believe that there's any higher authority or any creator or any universal laws which govern this place, and you believe that it was just cosmically farted into existence, then you are obviously going to be in moral relativism. Morals can just change. One day we'll write, men in suits write them down on bits of paper, and then the next day they change them, and they have different ones in different countries, and different ones in different states, and different ones in different counties. Yeah, it's just everything's relative. Social Darwinism, where obviously each to their own in the pecking order of society. Survival of the fittest. Those with the best genes will get to the top, and the dog eat dog pecking order of the coop that we live in. Social Darwinism. Eugenics. Man, which is man playing God. That's all eugenics is when you're trying to control the gene pool by various methods, whether it's culling, genocide, ethnic cleansing, taking out the weak and infirm, disabled people, whatever, or population control, when you think there's too many people, so you have to step in, play God, and the depopulation programs that we're currently seeing, then that's eugenics. So, how to live your life, the extremes of Christianity versus Satanism, or religion versus materialism. Remember, I'm only using Christianity as an example here, as an archetype. Could be any religion, and really it's just a mindset. It's the mindset, a religious mindset. That's what I'm getting at. It just so happens Christianity is a good example to get this across. So, how to live your life. So religion, that extreme, indoctrinates you into an imbalanced worldview that you are subservient to a higher authority, and you are less important than the doctrines of your organized religion. You are totally controlled. You obey your commands like a slave. It's your lot in life. No pride, desire, wealth, success, or ambition. Put yourself second. You are not worthy. You are completely selfless. Trust God's plan. Whoever heard that before? Trust the plan. It's all under control. Never mind logic, science, or reasoning. Facts and evidence is superseded by intuition, faith, and hope. Creative thinking. We are all part of creation, and free will cannot truly exist, as everything is ultimately determined by an all-knowing God. So everything is predetermined. That's the sort of extreme when you take that worldview and you just think, well, everything is laid out. It's fate. Bad things happen to us. That's just the way it's meant to be. Good things happen to us. Great. Good, that just happened to be. I didn't have any impact on that, either the good stuff or the bad stuff. I'm just in this movie, just observing and see what happens. I'm not going to do anything about anything. I'm not going to take my power and actually change my life and actually, build self-esteem and use the creative force within us to create a better life. And I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit like a little helpless little victim, waiting for God to do us a good turn. if I'm a good little slave. That's the mindset, the religious mindset. And you can replace God with anything. It's the mindset and the worldview which I'm getting at here. This extreme worldview polarizes you into right brain thinking, imagination, the bigger picture, intuition, creative thinking, daydreaming, feel-good thinking, overly emotional, over-sympathetic, and overly dramatic. So imagine your right brain is meant to, or will help you have an imagination. It will nurture your imagination, and it does help you have bigger picture thinking. But when it's completely imbalanced, your imagination just runs wild. You become gullible, and you believe in things like the plan, and you believe that I don't know, somebody's coming to save you. The savior complex, whether it's Trump or whether it's some aliens sitting on just above the earth watching things unfold, and they'll intervene when things get so bad. This is what people believe. This is what people believe. Savior complex. That there's the aliens are just sitting watching and they're just biding their time. Trust the plan. Be patient. God will intervene, or the aliens will intervene when it's, when the time is right. This is religious thinking. It's when intuition has gone crazy, and you just think everything you feel means something. Creative thinking, again, to the point where you could come up with some very, very creative ideas about what's going on in the world. Daydreaming. You live in a daydream. There's nothing wrong with these traits when they're balanced. But, when there's an imbalance, it's all about feel good thinking. That must be true because it makes us feel good. Materialism, on the other hand, indoctrinates you into an imbalanced worldview that you are God. You are more important than everything and everyone else. The world revolves around you. There is no higher authority than man, and the man-made social hierarchy, or the pecking order, is the only purpose in life. That's what we're here for, the pecking order. The coup is everything. More money and power is obtained by climbing the pecking order, and you'll have success and happiness. Guaranteed success and happiness once you get up that pecking order. You are a master, not a slave. You'll happily follow orders by your superiors in the pecking order for selfish outcomes. All pride, lust, desire, greed, wealth, success, and ambition. Put yourself first at all times. You are the most important person alive. This is a materialistic person. There is no great plan. Nothing is determined. Everything is random. Just everything is random and a coincidence. Pure logic rules. Scientism is everything, and cold hard facts rule your world. No room for intuition and that hippie nonsense. Holistic thinking, joining dots and seeing the big picture. No, it's just linear thinking. No, seeing the bigger picture, because that takes imagination, and you've got none. If you can't see it, touch it, smell it, hear it, or taste it, it doesn't exist. It does not exist in your world. No empathy and emotions. They're simply a weakness which hampers your selfish desires for money and power. Because the universe is random, a cosmic coincidence, and human intelligence is just a result of evolution alone, then everything is indeterminate, and free will simply means you do what you want. You're God, you do what you want. That's free will. There are no consequences other than man-made laws if you get caught. So that's your worldview. That's the world that you live in. The materialists, the left-brainers, don't give a shit about anybody apart from themselves. There is no point in taking action, if something's wrong in the world, if they can even see past their own nose to see anything wrong in the world, or even admit to their arrogant selves that there's something wrong in the world. There is no point in taking action, as there is nothing you can do to determine a better future, because everything's random. So you can't influence anything. Your actions don't have any bearings on any future event because everything's just random. You just exist and you just live in your five senses. You're just having an experience, and you're going to make the most out of this experience by indulging yourself, being as selfish as possible, eating as much food, taking in as much alcohol, pure binge lifestyle. You're going to buy as many consumer goods as possible, and you're just going to completely waste this experience on your satanic lifestyle, and you're going to do nothing for anybody else. You're going to lie and trample over people and anything to protect your own ego. This extreme worldview polarizes you into left brain thinking, pure binary logic, black or white thinking. But I'm going to suggest that these are survival mechanisms, because this is not how humanity should behave. The behaviors that you put out into the world is what creates our reality, and this is not what we're meant to be living in this imbalanced way between pure satanic materialism and pure self-loathing victim mentality. This is the master and the slave mentality. You can see how these behaviors interact as masters and slaves. An individual traumatized by the effects of emotional neglect as a child will create a survival instinct where they will either fall into a master or a slave mentality. So this is through emotional neglect. And by neglect, that could also be, overprotective, being overprotective. You are neglecting their needs because that's not what they need. The master mentality, whereby the child who lacked emotional validation and nurturing can turn into an adult with insecurities who will trample over others for social gain and power. It's like a bully. They love trampling over others to get social gain and power because they're ultimately insecure. They didn't have enough love and attention when they were children. They ultimately crave status, just like a bully, to feel worthy or superior, just like a bully, and have a lack of empathy themselves, or emotionally vacant, left-brainers, bullies. I'm just using the word bully it's got connotations of like childish, a children's play yard, schoolyard, but it's a good way of understanding what these people are really like and why they are like that. They exist only in the material fight or flight world of the ego. The left brain and the ego work perfectly hand in hand. The protection mechanism is for these materialistic people who are heavily left-brained in their behaviors and their worldview. The protection mechanism is be the hunter, not the hunted. That's a protection mechanism. Who wants to be the slave? Who wants to be the prey? They are super competitive when it comes to status, and they cannot be truly happy for you if you achieve what they perceive as anything better than them. They want to be the master and will likely create social circles which don't threaten their dominance. I've seen this firsthand where what you might call the alpha male, the most dominant one, the most successful one in the group, the most egotistical and the one with most materialistic value, is surrounded by people of no threat, if that makes sense. Of no threat to their status, and that social circle has stuck, and they're not going to leave that social circle because it's comfortable, it's safe, there's no threats there. They are the head honcho. They have no problem dominating, blaming, intimidating, or taking advantage of others. They are arrogant, materialistic, atheistic, and worship themselves. They love the pecking order hierarchy system as it serves them well. They love it because they're good at getting up the order, because of their risk-taking mindset. They have no problem taking risks, and they have no problem trampling on people. They are arrogant and full of themselves, and they will happily climb the pecking order, and whether they deserve success or not is not the question. They'll often get success through that mentality and mindset. It serves them well. The love the coup. The left brain characteristics of Satanism fits their worldview. I'm God, and the basic survival instincts are my playground: money, food, sex, entertainment. The slave mentality will manifest as a victim mentality due to an overprotective upbringing and never learning to stand on their own 2 feet. So we're now looking at the slave mentality or the victim mentality, the religious side of the brain. Bad things just happen to them for no reason. It must be fate. They have a lack of personal responsibility. Wasn't my fault. And any efforts to create change will fail, so there's no point in trying. Lazy, just sit around and wait. It'll happen. By some miraculous miracle, you'll get success and happiness. They blame everybody but themselves. They make excuses, and it's never their fault. They'll more than likely reject offers of help. That's another big one. And it may seem like they're only interested in feeling sorry for themselves. They lack power to change their situation, and they struggle with self-confidence and self-esteem. They might say things like, I'm not smart enough to get a better job. I'm not talented enough to succeed. They seem to enjoy wallowing in the mire. They actually like it down there because that's what they constantly tell themselves subconsciously, that they're not good enough. They believe that they're not good enough. They believe that they're just a slave and that they should be walked all over. They feel hopeless about their circumstances, never changing. This is a big one. Hurt when they believe loved ones don't care. That's a big one. When they believe loved ones don't care. I've come across people like this where their imagination is so off the scale, off the charts. They're so live in a dream world where something doesn't quite happen right or the way they wanted it to be, and they go over dramatic reaction, emotional reaction. You don't care. You don't care about me. We've had this in family. We've had this in friends who react like this when you've done absolutely nothing wrong, and you do care. And then you just think, I can't be bothered with this baggage. I'm behaving normally, but they believe I don't care. They believe I don't like them anymore. This is absolutely part of the makeup of these victim religious insecure little children, and they often resentful of people who seem happy and successful. Absolutely. They are overly dramatic and very negative to be around, like energy vampires. This mentality creates the perfect slave for the masters to dominate. The dominators will completely walk all over these people. They'll take what they can from them, and then they'll just treat them like dirt. But the slaves they'll never ever learn. They will never fight back and will just take abuse. Even when it's obvious that they are being taken for a ride, they will not do anything to stand up for themselves. Like a codependency in all of their relationships, where they are happy to sacrifice what they want to keep others happy. Put myself second, remember, charity. And the type of people they attract are the people who will take advantage of it. They do have a knack for attracting. Well, it is a perfect law of attraction, isn't it? It's a codependency. They don't want people who will treat them with respect because they've got no self-respect. They are totally controllable, these people. From a government perspective, from the system perspective, they are totally controllable. Even their own alleged friends control them, treat them like dirt, and then they keep going back for more and never learn. They're completely controllable. They will complain in the safety of their own privacy. So I've heard these people complain before about friends who are treating them in this way, or they're not happy about this going on in the world or whatever. But they'll never, ever, 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 ever act. Completely what's the word? Patience. Or we'll just wait. It'll turn out in the end. See how they do have these alleged virtues of religion. Patience. Don't do anything. Just wait. Again, due to never having had their emotional needs catered for appropriately or validated at times, their emotions validated at times of need, and made to feel small and helpless by an overprotective, untrusting parent, they have developed an inferiority complex and are persistently looking for external validation. That desire for validation is taken advantage of by the masters, who will treat them like trash while also giving them compliments to their face. This provides the validation they crave and therefore are completely subservient. So, overprotective parents, children are never allowed to stand on their own 2 feet, make their own mistakes and learn by them. They're overprotected, so they never learn to take personal responsibility. And then if they ever have made a mistake in childhood, they would have been, heavily I'm not necessarily going to say punished, but they would have been criticized, heavily criticized for making a mistake. These people cannot make mistakes. That's the protection mechanism. Don't make a mistake. Therefore, do nothing. This is the lack of, neglect. They've had too much of one and not enough of the other. That's the neglect that they've had from their parents. Complete children in adult life. They ultimately crave validation and praise to feel worthy. They are martyrs who lack self-esteem. They've never built up self-esteem because they've never been allowed to make mistakes and learn from them and grow and improve. Like religion wants you held back, tied back, and never to evolve. The protection mechanism is accept your lot in life or endure the pain and fighting for the respect that you deserve, and always take the path of least resistance. So they don't have the courage to fight for the respect that they deserve. And they'll always just take the path of least resistance. So when their trash friends who treat them like dirt, when they come crawling back after they've just treated them like dirt, a few weeks have passed, these trash friends will contact them and say, do you want to get together and go for a few drinks or a meal? They know fine well that they don't respect them. They know fine well that they would just drop them like a bag of shit if something better came along. They know that, but they'll go along with it anyway, because yes, what time, where, we'll be there. Bye, miss you. And this is the type of people who, again, the controllers, the government, the mind controllers, the system, they love these people because they can just treat them like dirt and manipulate them and tell them what to do, and they have no problem being dominated. These character traits are ripe for indoctrination into a religious belief system which gives you hope that something else is your master, and just have faith that you are special. Your time will come, just be patient. Follow the rules, put yourself second, the greater good, and eventually you'll get your reward. It's not your fault, it's God's will. It's God's will that's doing this. Or replace God with the government. So the right brain characteristics of religion fits their worldview. Trust authority, trust government, the new world religion, government. Tell me how to act and behave. That's their religion, is the government. Give me the rules, hand them down to me, preach them, I'll follow them. Trust the authority, I'll be patient, I'll follow the rules, and I'll get me reward. That's their religion, government. And you go back to the 2020 PSYOP, this was so obvious. People love being told what to do. They love it. They love not having to think for themselves, not having to make their decisions, being told what to do. And then by doing that, they become a virtuous person. Just like the 7 virtues. Tell us what to do, I'll do it, and then tell us I'm virtuous, and then I can go home and I can feel validated and relevant. This is how they were able to get away with it for the vast majority of the slaves certainly in the UK, what I saw during the 2020 PSYOP, absolute slave mentality, but they loved taking on the role of the Führer as well. They somehow got some sort of huge boost from being virtuous, like God give them some sort of power to tell you what to do, to tell you what to put over your face, to tell you where to stand, to tell you this, that, and the other. Who do you think you are? They suddenly became little Satanists. Because ultimately, deep down, that's what they want to be. They want to be masters. They want to be dominant. They want to be successful. They want to be everything the materialists are. But they can't be, because they're so self-loathing and they're so debilitated by their victim mentality. They can't be that unless they're given, some epaulets or a set of rules to take out there and tell other people how to behave. They feel a sense of authority. So where does this slave master mentality come from? So located in the left side of our brain is the masculine force. It is part of us that is assertive, logical, analytical, doing, controlling, aggressive, striving, projecting, hard, organising, rushing, thrusting, always pushing us to survive, and has its origins in our minds. So this is the mental masculine energy. But the immature expression of the masculine energy is preoccupied with power. When masculine energy becomes corrupt, it results in the toxic patriarchal society we see today that is based on a foundational philosophy of get, reject, use and dominate. Does that sound familiar? Pretty much the echelons of perceived power these days do exactly that: get, reject, use, dominate. So that's the left mental expression of masculine energy in its what its true form should be, but then its immature expression. Little boys in short trousers, I think, is what some people refer to politicians as, and that's exactly what they are, even the women. The right side of the brain is feminine, or that which is creative, delicate, intuitive, nurturing, receptive, tender, surrendering, synthesizing, integrating, soft, feeling, and the part of us that knows without explanation. Its roots reach deep into the heart. The feminine helps us to be. This form of energy softens the constant male-driven doingness of our lives, which has become part of our misguided and relentless efforts to survive in the material world from the rising feminine energy. Like the masculine energy, feminine energy has up until now been immature. Again, the immature expression of feminine energy is playing the victim, happy to be poor, to be a poor victim. Victim mentality, where really the feminine energy should be there to keep the masculine in check. So both, again, the feminine energy is the mental expression of that everybody should have. So everybody should have a masculine and a feminine mental expression, and there should be imbalance, keeping each other in check so they don't become out of balance, and obviously irrational and immature as a result of that. But this is how the system wants you divided in this way in the mind. We all know what divide and rule is. Divide the people, divide the men and the women, divide the race, divide the sexes, sexuality, divide everything, divide countries, divide areas of countries, divide cities. Just that's how you do it. But ultimately, this is the main focus for the mind controllers: divide in the mind. Have either an aggressive, hyper-materialistic and preoccupied with your own success, possessions and status loving the pecking order system of ruthless dominance, or have a weak passive victim slave who, like in any religion, will acquiesce to perceived authority without any question and on pure faith alone. Someone who lives in la la land. While people appear to express a dominant side of these energies, left or right, they also use elements of the other when it suits. This is particularly evident when with the victim mentality, it's always someone else's fault. So there are traits of each side which, can be used. Not everybody is purely left-sided or purely right. Most people use the victim card. Somebody else's fault. I'm not taking responsibility. Like a child, I'm not taking responsibility. Somebody else did it. This is what expresses ultimately through this immature, retarded mindset is people who do not want to take responsibility, and that's how they keep us divided. Ultimately, in the mind, keep us immature, lopsided, haven't developed properly, haven't matured properly, haven't grown mentally, spiritually. And just quickly to finish off that slide, you can see how one side is the materialistic me, overt expression of Satanism, and the other is a more likes to acquiesce, likes to be the slave to the whatever religion they're following, whether it's actual organized religion or government. But ultimately, they are still completely selfish, and they'll do anything to get along, go along to get along. So they still have that sort of egotistical satanic mindset. They are covert. They like to wear a coat of virtue. As I've just said, both of these imbalanced, immature personalities fit into the desired tenets of Satanism, or just call it statism. Self-preservation. Both ultimately put themselves first. The materialists are overly selfish, and the religious types are covertly selfish. It is only due to their insecurities that they need to put on an act of virtuous behaviours. Moral relativism. The materialists don't believe in morals. There is no such thing. It doesn't even enter their mind. What enters their mind is it good for me? The religious types believe morality comes from the government, and that conforming makes you a good little slave. Taxation is the best example of this. They believe in taxation like it's an absolute virtue. Pay your taxes, be a good little boy. They don't even question it. Or they'll complain about where the money goes. They'll do that. They think stealing money is virtuous. That's moral relativism. Well, it's fine because somebody's written it on a piece of paper, and now it's good. Now it's virtuous. That's moral relativism, and the religious types, government is their absolute god. They'll defend taxation until they're in the grave. But they'll complain about what's done with the money, and I can't get my head around this because I actually said this to somebody just the other day. It's the thieves it's stolen money. It's taken without your consent. If somebody burgles your house and breaks into your safe and steals all of your life savings, what do? Do you complain about what they're spending it on? It's just they're so mind controlled, and you just get a glazed eyes look when you talk about that sort of logic, rational conclusion, and they can't process it. It's far too big to process. It's too big. Social Darwinism, survival of the fittest is the societal pecking order. That's the coup. That's the coup files. The materialists love the dog-eat-dog world, and the religious types accept their place in the order of things because deep down they are self-loathing and do not believe they deserve success. I'm just little old me. That I'm not good enough to make a difference. I'm not good enough to get promoted. I'm not good enough to stand up for myself. If you never stand up for yourself, if you never speak your mind, if you never do what's right, and if you just meek, pathetic little man or woman, then what you're doing is you're destroying yourself. You're saying to yourself, I've got no respect for yourself. Okay? No respect for you. I'm not going to stand up for what you believe in. Self. This is what they're subconsciously saying to themselves. So they're going to break down and descend into self-loathing. Eugenics, the arrogant materialists would happily rid the place of those they see as weaker. They think they are God. They are pure atheists. There is no God. I'm God. The meek religious types would simply go along with anything to avoid putting their head above the parapet. You'll find this. Bring up the subject of how many people there are on the planet, whether or not there's too many. You'll see the left-brainers try a social experiment. You'll see the left-brainers straight away saying, yeah, because they just want the place to themselves. They're selfish. They're overtly selfish. They think that what they're thinking is get rid of the lower pecking order. Just like in a coup. And the lowest in the pecking order gets bullied and pecked and bleeds, and all the rest of it gets no food and no resources, because they see the resources as a finite thing. They don't realize that as long as that owner is always about, there's always going to be food. There's always going to be food in the feeder for the chickens. But they don't realize that. They think that could be the last. So they'll create a pecking order to make sure that they get what they need. And that's exactly what this current eugenics social engineering exercise is all about. Cull the planet and convince people that A, we're destroying it, which we're not, could be better, and B, there's too many people sucking up all of the resources and creating too much of a footprint, so to speak. But yeah, there's not enough resources to go around, and the first people to say, yeah, I agree with that, it'll be the left-brainers. Completely arrogant. They think only they should be on the planet. The immature side of the feminine and masculine. I mean, if that picture doesn't tell you, speak 1,000 words. That's how men behave. Well, they're not men, they're boys. But yeah, that's generally how they behave. Trying to get one over on you, and if they get one over on you, they'll let you know somehow. One-upmanship, childish, buffoon behavior, just pathetic. And you know that goes for, I'm going to say, the vast majority of men. Even if they're putting on an act of being mature, that's what they are inside. Even if they look like they're successful in life, even if they go out for a nice dinner and dress smartly and have a fancy car, they're still that inside. That pathetic, immature little child. And then on the left, obviously you've got the Ice Queen, who'll stab you in the back to get what she wants. The immature feminine, cruel, manipulative, covert. We refer to these characters as the shadow side. So on the feminine side, on the left, and on the right is the masculine side. So you've got victim versus persecutor, codependent versus cold detachment, insecure versus controlling, both actually insecure, but manipulative, egotistical, passive, aggressive, overly emotional, emotionally numb, acquiesce, dominate, inauthentic, abusive, cruel, ruthless. And you can absolutely see these traits in so many people, one side or the other. Generally speaking, they will have an imbalance which is weighted towards one side. I know a shadow feminine who's abusive, but it's covert, it's passive, but it's still abusive. But generally speaking, again, whatever the traits are, these are the immature or the shadow elements of the mental masculine and feminine. Again, you'll see this in a playground. It's up to us to develop the self-awareness and humility needed to recognize what we unconsciously harbor within ourselves. It takes shadow work. This is the shadow side. It takes shadow work to be able to delve into the subconscious, bring it to the surface, bring it to the conscious, and deal with why it is you behave in the way that you behave. Why do you show these traits? They're not useful. Well, they actually are useful to get along in this satanic system, and that's the problem. Most people are happy. Most people are happy with their inauthentic, abusive, passive-aggressive, insecure, controlling, victim mentality and cold detached lifestyle. They're happy. The mature, fully actualized divine feminine and masculine. All traits innate to the divine feminine and masculine are neutral. It's only when they become out of balance that they become an issue. So they are neutral because they balance each other out. Being compassionate, for example, is a divine feminine trait that can either be positive or negative depending on how it's used. When there's too much compassion, there is self-martyrdom and codependency. definitely see a lot of that in right-brainers. And when there's too little, there's cruelty. So in essence, the light side of the divine feminine and masculine is really only another way of saying the balanced side. So when you say to somebody you're really rational, that's what you're saying is you're really balanced. And that's I mean, those two words are interchangeable, because the part of the brain that rationality comes from, it doesn't function properly in an out of balance brain. The brain is formed by two cerebral hemispheres that are separated by a groove. The brain can thus be described as being divided into left and right cerebral hemispheres. Each of these hemispheres has an outer layer of grey matter, the cerebral cortex, that is supported by an inner layer of white matter. The hemispheres are linked by the corpus callosum, a very large bundle of nerve fibers. Smaller commissures also join the hemispheres, and these are also present in other vertebrates. These commissures transfer information between the two hemispheres to coordinate localized functions. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex is a part of the prefrontal cortex in the mammalian brain. It is located in the frontal lobe at the bottom of the cerebral hemispheres, and is implicated in the processing of risk and fear. So this part of the prefrontal cortex implicated in the processing of risk and fear. Risk and fear is the difference between the what we've already been discussing, the imbalanced people. The dominating people love risk. They love taking risk. That's how they get to where they are at the top in the business world and politics and all the rest of it. They love taking risk, whereas the right-brained people are very, very fearful. They love their safety. They're very meek and they're scared of everything. They love safety. So this part of the brain isn't firing properly. This localized function isn't firing properly because the brain is imbalanced. The processing of risk and fear, as it is critical in the regulation of amygdala activity in humans. It also plays a role in the inhibition of emotional responses and is the process of decision-making and self-control. It is also involved in the cognitive evaluation of morality. That's why neither of these two types of people are objectively moral. If we evaluate morality within a certain part of the brain, how can it be subjective? We must come to the same conclusions if there's an evaluation of morality to be had. Otherwise, what's the point? Emotional responses, impulsiveness, that's another thing of the fear-based people. Everything's done on impulse. Well, actually both types of people. Emotional responses, self-control. Sometimes it's like like a child with some sort of mental disorder that can't control themselves, can't read the room, and things just come out of their mouth without thinking. Commissures like the corpus callosum allow communication between the two hemispheres. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex, located low in the middle of the prefrontal cortex, plays a huge role in moral reasoning, emotion regulation, risk evaluation, and social behavior. Again, risk evaluation, people do not have a proper balanced risk evaluation. Either avoid it or they constantly take risks. Emotional regulation, they have emotional responses to anything that doesn't sit right with their religious belief system. Moral reasoning, people don't even know. They don't even know what the word means. They think it's just something that's made up. Do both hemispheres need to be firing equally to activate moral rationality? The answer is not exactly equally, but yes, they must coordinate properly. Moral decision making involves emotional input, largely right, and logical processing, largely left. If either hemisphere is dysfunctional, disconnected, or out of balance, moral cognition can be severely impaired. Research on people with prefrontal cortex damage shows they can become emotionally cold and make immoral decisions, telling me, even if their pure logic, i.e. their IQ, remains intact. So again, you can have people, this is the left brainers, very, very intellectual, no intelligence, but very intellectual, but they are emotionally cold and making moral decisions. This suggests that emotion and reason must integrate properly for full moral judgment. The connoisseurs, particularly the corpus callosum, are crucial because they allow emotional data, often right hemisphere, to inform logic decision making, left hemisphere, and vice versa. Emotions and logic, get them balanced. In short, the brain doesn't need equal firing in a mechanical sense. No, it's not an exact science. But healthy, dynamic balance and communication between hemispheres are essential for authentic moral rationality. Without that balance, you could have cold logic without empathy, psychopathy-like, or overwhelming emotion without structured reasoning, impulsiveness, or just like a wet blanket of a person. So let's look again at the mature, fully actualized divine, feminine and masculine. If you just have a look at the traits there, you can see that a well-balanced, mature mind will not be vulnerable to emotional responses, will put morals before themselves, will think rationally with integrity and authenticity, and therefore will not be controllable, will not want to be anybody else's master, and certainly not anyone else's slave. Or the one that just stands out to us as authentic and to have integrity. That's the one that really stands out to me. I mean, some of them, the other ones as well, open-mindedness and non-judgmental. That's so many people are the complete opposite to that. The current human condition of consciousness is that of immature children. That's where we are, if we're going to be honest with ourselves. The system is the bully abuser. The education system teaches conformity and collectivism. The world of careers is geared for bullies. That is left brain orientated, immature masculine traits. The system is immoral, cold, repetitive, rigid, and pure logic without empathy. Power hungry, war hungry, materialistic, and somewhat sociopathic. Women are becoming more like immature men. All by design, all to enable the slave cult called government. If we are to raise our collective level of consciousness, we need to awaken the divine feminine within us. We need more balance. We actually need to mature the divine masculine as well. But generally speaking, some of the things that we need: enhanced perception or intuition, sharpened gut instincts, more flexibility, spontaneity, greater self-compassion, come out with self-loathing, increased love and acceptance of others, connection with the divine creator within. We are creative beings. There are so few people that I know that are actually creative people. They couldn't even change a light bulb. And that's not even creative, that's just common sense, but zero creativity. more ability to enjoy the small things in life. You don't need huge materialistic status symbols. Greater receptivity to yourself, others, and life. Increased ability to let go. Deeper comfort with the unknown and reduced anxiety. Stop being such a control freak. Heightened connection with your body and sensuality. Enhanced ability to relax, receive, and just be. This is the addendum, the real 7 deadly sins. I've been referring to the right brain as the religious type because it's like they just follow orders. They follow orders as if it's some sort of commandments, 10 commandments from government. They really are religious in their thinking. They just have pure belief systems. I mean, so do the left brainers have belief systems, but they believe things like, that they are smaller than any, these people with perceived power, authority, people above them in the pecking order. They're right at the bottom of the pecking order, and they believe that's where they belong, and that's just their lot in life. It's like a religious cult, worshiping the authority and all of the chickens above them. So I thought I would include the real 7 deadly sins rather than the made-up religious ones. And just to give credit to the presentation author, Mark Passio from whatonearthishappening.com. Definition of sin: an immoral act considered to be a transgression against divine law. Immoral, what's the definition of immoral? In conflict with moral principles, wrong. Transgression, an act that goes against a law, an offence. Obviously, these are divine, natural laws we're talking about now, and morality. So a transgression against divine law, the law of God, natural law, moral law, law of cause and effect, karma, call it what you will. Many names over the centuries have been given to the divine. It is just the creator of the universe. When human beings in the aggregate live in harmony with natural law and are therefore moral, remember that's what most people have got no ability to rationalize, is morality. They become and remain free. You can't control and enslave fully mature and fully self-actualized human beings. When human beings in the aggregate live in opposition to natural law and are therefore immoral, they become and remain enslaved. I refer to this dynamic of natural law as the law of freedom. As morality increases, freedom increases. As morality declines, freedom declines. A right is an action that does not initiate harm to another sentient being. It's always easier to think about it in the negative. What is it not? A right is an action that does not initiate harm. There was a social experiment, and no percent of interviewees could correctly define a right. When you say, what are your rights? Try it. How many people know what the rights are? How many people can actually define it as that? Which is what a true inalienable right is, and always will be, forever and ever. A wrongdoing is an action that does initiate harm to another sentient being. Again, 0% of interviewees could correctly define a right. Religion is a mind control that holds us back. The word religion is etymologically derived from the Latin verb religare, meaning to tie back, to hold back from forward progress, to bind. By providing a false definition of a moral action, religion ultimately holds humanity back from a correct understanding of natural law and true objective morality. So what we're saying here is religion is going to give you these definitions, and it's false. It's a false definition of sin. Pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, greed. Covered them earlier. Pride, internal emotion. Gluttony, self-indulgent. Sloth, state of inaction. Lust, is an internal emotion. Anger is an internal emotion. Jealousy is an internal emotion. Greed is just self-indulgence. They are just internal vices, in other words. The real 7 deadly sins, these are the real violations of divine law or natural law. Murder, assault, no surprises yet, is there? Rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and deception. Murder is the theft of life. Assault is the theft of well-being. Rape is the theft of sexual association. Theft is obviously the unrightful taking of property. Trespass is the theft of security. Coercion is the theft of free will or informed decision making. And deception is the theft of informed decision making. Well, I mean, they are both. Yeah, I would suggest that they're both quite close, aren't they? Coercion. Yeah, it is theft of free will because it's something that you do. Deception leads to coercion, I suppose. But yeah, I agree with those 7 transgressions of natural law. And theft is what they all have in common. It's all theft. If you're stealing something from somebody, most people know that theft is wrong. Except with taxation, they can't seem to wrap their heads around that one. But most people know that theft is wrong. So if you can think of any of these 7 transgressions, are you stealing something from someone? Property, the root of all virtue. Ultimately, learning and applying objective morality and natural law is entirely about understanding what one's rightful property is versus what one's rightful property is not. If we fully understand and value our rightful property, we will then naturally extend that understanding to all others' property. In doing so, we will cease to violate the one true law of morality: don't steal. And this is why the communists and the socialists want rid of private property, because that includes you as well. You become their property. But I thought that was a really profound way of explaining what the real 7 deadly sins are and how to come to a rational understanding of morality. And just to point out the justice card, so that's law and justice. This is obviously a tarot card, and you can see there straight away you've got the yin and the yang in the middle, and the balance of the scales is the moon and the sun, the dark night sky there and the brightness of daylight. The sun is the right side of the brain, the masculine energy, the one who brings things to life, and the moon is the feminine energy, the more passive and caring and understanding energy. So you can see there, for as however old as the tarot is, this has been known. Balance the brain, balance the mind, masculine, feminine, justice equals justice based on morality. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's presentation. I'm a bit peckish right now, so I'll see you later.